Ghelani and you are watching Pinky TV. Welcome to What Women Want Online. This is a show where you get to meet incredible people who share stories of hope, resilience and excellence. We are filming at the Social House and these conversations are brought to you by SBM Bank and Safaricom. If you'd like to be inspired, then I suggest that this episode is just for you. A self-confessed cake girl. She was studying geology and then decided that that was not for her as she went into self-employment following her passion, cooking. The CEO of Spez Limited, which she started at a young age with only one employee, has grown from strength to strength with clients such as IBM, Uber and Safaricom, just to name a few. She is a sought-after brand that could be due to the fact that she offers very unique services. A mother and a book lover, Esmeralda DeSouza. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we've had many conversations before, and I think your story is phenomenal. You're just an amazing person.
Thank you.
So let me take you back. Your father was a Goan man. Your mum from Nyanza province. Am I right in saying that? And this happened at a time where, you know, interracial relationships were not considered.
Yeah.
Forget marriages. So what impact did your parents have on the person that you became?
Wow. I am everything because of my parents. For them, it was a lot based on religion. And because they were both Catholics, it was easier for them to be integrated into each other's families. And that was the main basis. But my grandparents as well were very liberal, except on religion. So they both accepted my parents in either families. But my dad is an extremely social person, and he'll treat everybody the same, whether it's an askari or a CEO. He'll strike conversations. He's extremely social. My mom she's a disciplinarian, and she's very prim and proper. So I've borrowed a bit of stuff from both of them. My mom's love for entertaining, which is where I think I got my love for hosting and catering. So I've borrowed so much from my parents, and just being your own person and appreciating. I've never taken into account, I think because of the interracial marriage, I've never judged anyone by their culture or their nationality or their tribe. I have been extremely partial in that. I've never impartial in that. I've never judged anyone by that, and I think because my parents also just integrated us as we're Kenyan. We're not labeled anything. In the house we spoke English and Kiswahili, so I mean that humility and acceptance of each other, came to us as kids as well.
Yeah. And you got the great Goan hair.
Yes.
Like,
the advantages.
People look at it and be like,
is it a weave? Yes. I have people pulling on my hair.
Right? I'm a bit jealous.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. I mean, so obviously your parents brought you up. They were very open-minded. They probably imparted a lot of wisdom and a lot of grace, maybe, within you.
Yes, they did. And especially when I got pregnant. And that, I think, was their real test. If they're watching, they'll be like, what? But their parenting and their support. Them. No, I wasn't. The situation tested that foundation,
right.
And what they were preaching. And that really came out. I mean, they were extremely supportive throughout the whole journey. And they have an amazing relationship with my son, Miguel. So they're pretty solid human beings.
I think, when your parents are pretty solid, it does show up in your offspring. So we see that in you. So we really believe that your parents are pretty solid.
Yeah.
Let's take a walk through your childhood and maybe memories that really stuck with you and molded you into the person that you are today.
Most of my memories actually are around food and travel. My dad used to work for British Airways, so we got to travel a lot and experience different cuisines. So, and I remember my mom hosting, and it was such an event every time she hosted. We were in charge of laying the tables, and she had, you know, the special cutlery and crockery for guests. And she would never serve just a simple meal. It had to be a full spread on the table with napkins and everything. So that, I suppose, was really inculcated in me in terms of wanting to host and enjoying hosting. We used to go to picnics on Ngong Hills with my neighbors, and that integration of the community was also a really big deal. My neighbors were Muslim, and my bridesmaids were Muslim when I had my wedding. And people, you could tell the looks of, okay, this is looking a bit confused, but I mean, I love them like my sisters, because my parents accommodated that, and it was all about accepting people as they were.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of memories around food.
Oh gosh. So, you know, we were talking off camera, we were talking about this and how your father's influence from Goa maybe sort of rubbed off on your mom. Yeah,
she learned a lot of stuff from my grandma and from her mom as well, how to cook rabbit. I remember she telling me about my grandma. Her mom used to cook rabbit in pots back in the village. Yeah, so I mean, she's learned so many things in terms of food from both cultures. A lot from my grandma, my dad's mom, the whole incorporation of coconut milk. My mom always has coconut milk in her store, and cream, just rich flavors, and of course spice. We had a hell of a lot of spice in our meals growing up, and my husband has now become used to it as well, spice and chili. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of influence of the Indian culture in our food as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you know, you were talking about your parents supporting you when you were pregnant. This is at the age of 19.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that if you didn't get your ass in gear to provide for your little man who was then born, then things would have turned out differently? I mean, a lot of people who are younger, who have kids, like, I've got my parents, they'll help me.
You know, I had been a leader most of my childhood. I was head girl at Valley Road, I was head girl at St. Mary's. So it was more of a, I felt I had disappointed my parents. They had really tried and sacrificed a lot to give us good education and a good foundation. So I really felt that I had really disappointed them. And they didn't, it was something, I mean, no one expects that of their child, but me especially, I felt like, okay, this just came from the other direction. So it was more out of, I need to take responsibility for this, and I need to find a way to support my parents as well, because they had just retired and they were home. So I felt that it would be it was a heavy load, it was a burden, because I had just started university, and then here I am with the little one. Actually, I hadn't started, I was still at St. Mary's at the time. So it was from a perspective of, I need to take this responsibility and remove a bit of the burden from them, at least financially, to try and make, you know, to show them that, listen, this was a mistake, I will make it, I will get this together, I will, you know, I'll do it. So that was a perspective.
So it was just to take the burden off your parents?
Financially, yes. It was almost trying to find a way to make it up to them.
And at this point, you're studying geology in uni? I
was actually at St. Mary's in my second year of IB. And then I went to study geology. Yeah.
And you were just like,
Yeah.
So talk us through that, where you're like, actually, I'm going to be a caterer.
Actually, that was not the intention at all. It was, I tried doing other stuff as well, selling Maasai Market necklaces.
Is that one of yours?
No, this belongs to another brand. Selling necklaces and sending them with my friends who are going to study up country.
That's clever.
Yeah, I was an usher for events for Capital FM. I was a background vocalist for a band.
Wow.
Remember Nyambane had a band.
Nyambane had a band?
Yeah, he did.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so I was really a BGV with him. So I tried all kinds of odd things, and none of them were really sustainable. So I decided, okay, I'm at home, I have the kitchen, what can I do? So I asked my dad to buy me a cookbook. There was no YouTube. I didn't remember even having Wi-Fi then. And he taught me, I mean, he bought the book and I learned how to make a cookie. And I approached a local cafe down the road from our house, and I asked the lady, would you mind selling my cookies? And she said, yeah, sure, I can. So sold those. They didn't do really well, and then she said, why don't you learn how to make a Black Forest cake? So I asked a friend of mine who was in cooking school to teach me how to make the cake, sold it to all my relatives and friends, sending them SMSs. And then one day someone gave me a call and said, they assumed I did catering. So they said, oh, my company is having an AGM, can you cater? In my head, I'm thinking, my goodness, I only do Black Forest cakes. But I told her, I'll call you back in a minute. So I called the chef, who was learning to become, he was studying culinary arts, and that he knows how to do a menu, and he could do it. He's never done it before, but he could do it. So I said, okay, let's meet the client. We do a menu. I mean, I can handle everything else, and I'll help you in the kitchen, and let's see where this goes. And 12 years later, here we are. So it was never intentionally to start a catering company. It sort of happened by mistake along the way.
You are the definition of a hustler.
Yes.
Because that's what happens, you take an opportunity, you don't say no.
Yeah.
You're like, but you didn't lie.
No.
You didn't lie.
No, yeah.
So what would you tell somebody who's in the same position as you those many years ago, has very little knowledge, but has a great opportunity?
Business is not for the faint-hearted. It's been 12 years of literally blood, sweat, and tears. Okay. It's something you need to be very conscious of when you're going into it. I would advise anybody who wants to go into business to get a mentor. I got a mentor in my 11th year. And I feel like I should have gotten a mentor way before, because people have made so many mistakes along the way that you can learn from. You can't live long enough to make them all on your own. So I would definitely advise get a mentor and be extremely sure that you know what you're getting into, because it's a lifetime journey. And if you're able to do something that you're extremely passionate about, then it won't feel like work. Because I realized later along the way that I was always going to be, this person because of my childhood and what my mom used to do. And I got a lot of that from her. So if you can be passionate about what you're doing, then it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Because for me, there's sincere satisfaction at the end of an event, and the client is happy, and everyone is just, food just brings a whole new aspect to any event, and so many conversations. We've been part of so many memories. So I really sincerely love it. So if you can find something that you're passionate about, then it's much easier.
Then it's easier to
but everything,
hustle,
yes, but everything else around it really matters.
Of course.
Yeah, the finance, everything, every single thing, the processes, getting the right people, those are major things that I've learned along the way, the lessons.
So first of all, I want to ask you, do you make more than a Black Forest cake now?
Yes, we did. We made a whole...
Personally?
Oh, me? Yes, I do.
Of course.
I do.
And then this, you brought up such a great point there, employing the right people.
Yeah.
How do you come across the right people?
Sometimes it's a lot of luck. But the thing is just trying to attract people who understand what your vision is and they have the same passion. When you're working with people who understand what you're trying to achieve, buy into it, understand it completely, and can see it, then it makes life so much easier. Of course, they have to be extremely competent in whatever skill set that you need for different roles. But it's a lot about attitude. It's not really about how many degrees you have. But I'm biased, of course, because I don't have any. But it's a lot based on attitude. And that's what you need to make sure you have right from the beginning. Because you can have someone with, 5 degrees, but their attitude is extremely off. They're not a team player. They don't understand the vision. And that can be difficult. So attitude is a major thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And what sort of an employer are you?
Should have interviewed one of my employees. No, I think I'm very honest as an employer. I'm really honest with my team about my expectations. When I'm upset, when I'm excited, I'm very honest. I mean, they know me very well, especially those who've walked the journey with me for a very long time. I think I'm fun and funny to be around. So. And I've learned that along the way, because at first I began with a very, the iron fist.
Okay.
And then slowly evolved into understanding, I need people to understand what I'm about. So there can't be, there has to be a boundary, but people have to understand you as a human being. because we all are human beings at the end of the day, and you want to bring out that compassion from, from your staff, and you want them to be their best selves when they come to work.
Yes.
So you have to be their friend. You have to understand what they're going through, understand what makes them tick, understand their strengths and weaknesses. So it's a thin line, but you have to be compassionate as a leader.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So now you reach a stage in your career where big brands start calling you.
Yeah.
And there's, first of all, it's you're hustling. So you're putting your foot in the door. What is that journey like? So you've taken us from your first job.
Yeah.
Now talk to us about when you're like, okay, this is who I am, this is what I want to do. Here's my business card. Do you go knocking on doors? And what is the turning point when big brands start calling you? And what does that feel like?
When we first started and we're doing the catering, we decided to try out deliveries of meals. So I literally knocked on all the doors in Ghelani and Upper Hill. That's where most of the offices were concentrated back then. And just speaking with the receptionists and asking them to post. We had a little poster with our menu items, and just asking them to please put it and telling them about us. I remember sitting down. We had a little store in our very first kitchen. I remember sitting on a stool and with a directory and on top of a refrigerator.
Those things called directories.
Yeah, the directories. And literally calling people. I mean, I spent so much time doing that. And eventually one order led to another, and then the caterings came up more. So it requires a lot of, I don't know what to call it, whether it's resilience or persistence, because the doors don't open magically. You have to get them, just a window open first and then the doors. So it's a lot of just being persistent with clients. And when you have a good product, people come to you. And that's how we've got a lot of our business. I mean, you've never seen a billboard for spares, yet we have all these clients who we serve. So maybe a client from Safaricom will be visiting IBM and they taste the food and they like it, so they ask for our cards and give us a call. So it's been a lot of referral business. So it's just to make sure that each event is really amazing so that you get more business from that. When the big brands call, and I remember the first event we did for Safaricom, it was as a result of another event planner who was just hosting an event. And I remember back then it was Bob Collin was PA. And I remember she was extremely anxious, like, who the hell are you guys? This is how I want things done. You're late. And she kept, following up to make sure that we were on track because she had never seen us before. And then after the event, you could see she was impressed. So I was like, okay, is there any other opportunity? Can we cater for anything else? And she said, maybe there's a delivery, okay. So you began with the small items, small deliveries. We used to do Monday meetings for the HODs, and then eventually it becomes other events. So it's about building trust. With my business, it's purely about building trust. Okay, can you cater for the CEO? Okay, you did this event pretty well, okay. So here's more. So it's always about making sure you execute whatever you're given really, really well, and then the client begins to trust you and you build the relationship with the clients. So that's how it's been. And a lot of that has happened via referral business. Of course, when we get a call for a big deal event, there's a lot of pride, because especially considering how we started, Do
you do a happy dance?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really exciting. It's a lot of pressure because you have to deliver and deliver really, really exceptionally well, because we're competing with the big boys, essentially. The big boys in the industry. So we try and really build relationships, and that's what we're about. So understanding what the client wants, who are you hosting, what are you trying to achieve from the event, what kind of guests are you expecting, because we can't be sending a carnivorous menu and half your guests are vegetarian. Yes. Yeah, whether it's a gluten-free requirement. So it's just about understanding the guests, what the client is trying to achieve, and just helping him or her achieve it for the event.
So you do all foods?
Yes, we
everything.
do. Yeah, we do.
And I think that helps with the background,
Yes.
Again, going back to the mix
exactly.
of your parents as well. So you understand the different palates as well. So, when we're talking about your food, what makes you different? What is the experience I will have if I call you as a caterer? Or my guests, rather.
Yeah. When when we first started, actually, the business name was Customized Catering Services Limited.
Okay.
And no one could remember the name. That's why we went through a whole rebranding exercise and eventually came out with SPES. So that's what we're about. We're customizing the experience. We're not going to throw menus at you and tell you, this is what we have. Yeah, we want to sincerely understand what you're about, what you're trying to achieve, how you want your guests to feel, and then we execute that. So in terms of the kind of food they eat and the setup, people come in and look at our setups and take pictures. And the food, of course, has to be amazing. So we make sure we have the best quality products. And then the service as well. We teach our waiters to be very cognizant of everyone is different, understand, read body language, understand what this client wants, and serve them really well. And that's basically it. That's the magic. Just understanding what the client wants and executing it very, very well.
So when you were first starting out, we were speaking about this off camera as well.
Yeah.
The bank, you went and opened a bank account. And what did they do that was different that you feel is what maybe propelled you to the next level? Yeah.
So I wouldn't mention the bank's names because they're all my clients. So we were with an older bank before, and I opened with that specific bank because my folks used to bank with them. So I thought, okay, I may as well just open the same bank. And then I remember us trying to we just needed a credit card, and it was extremely hard. They didn't even give us one because we had just started out. They couldn't really understand, okay, your caterers, what exactly does that mean? And we just wanted a credit card so we could buy the products and then serve the client and then get the payment and pay off. That's all we literally wanted. And I mean, they just completely ignored us. And I remember eventually when our revenues grew, then they came back to us and said, okay, would you like some money? So eventually we took a loan and then another, and then I closed the account because they were not really supporting and they only paid attention when our revenues grew.
Right.
So then I moved to a different bank. And I mean, it was the SME bank for any entrepreneur back then. And a lot of businesses relied on the bank for support. And that's what banks need to be. I remember rocking up one day at a different bank, and the branch manager was like, okay, you must have a title deed. I'm like, I'm 21. Wow. Where am I going to get a title deed from? He didn't even want to understand the business or what we're about or what our vision is. It was just like, no title deed, no money. But when we moved to this other bank, it was a very different experience. So banks need to understand what entrepreneurs are about. Look at our numbers, look at our clientele. I mean, from the clientele alone, you can tell we're not messing around, right? Yeah. We're not messing around with business. Yeah. So that's what banks need to do, just fully understand the business. And especially understanding what different stages a business is in, but more importantly, understanding the entrepreneur and what the vision is. That's what a lot of banks don't do. Yeah.
How can people support small businesses at the moment?
It's a very interesting time for lots of businesses. I think in terms of the whole ecosystem around support, for banks is just to understand, okay, business will never be probably what it was, but you can't ignore the past. So you can't ignore the revenues that we had before. You can't ignore the clientele. We need a lot of support from the banks in terms of just understanding what stage we're in, what our plan is. Because all of us as entrepreneurs, we've had 3 months in this COVID season to think about the business and what we want. So we have a plan, yeah. In terms of the clients, I remember a client recently calling. Previously, we had credit periods. And I remember the client calling, and she almost seemed perplexed that we don't have a credit period now, or we can't offer it. And I was so shocked, like, are we living in the same world? Do you not know that COVID happened? Do you not know that hotels have closed? Yes. So as clients, I mean, clients just need to be extremely understanding, especially the corporate clients, that we are going through a recovery period. So we can't offer the 30, 60-day periods that we had before. And as our clients as well, just willing to pay for quality, because that's what we're about. Be willing to pay for quality. And sometimes it's just giving people a chance, because that's what Safaricom did with us. They just give us a chance. And I mean, currently we were serving 2 of their cafeterias before before COVID happened. So it's about giving people a chance. Sometimes it's a very calculated risk, but giving people a chance.
Which is important.
Yes.
So, from your story, you're a business person, a CEO. There's persistency in your story. There's consistency as well. For anybody who's watching, because a lot of people watch What Women Want are people who are either their own CEO or aspiring to be.
Yeah.
What can you tell them about, the fact that this is not an overnight success, and persistency and consistency are two of the C's that you need?
So my advice to someone who is looking to start a business, essentially, or is already in business.
A person who's aspiring to be in your position.
Okay. It's a beautiful journey if you're doing something that you're passionate about. Don't ignore, I would maybe list it down to 3 things. Don't ignore the numbers, because that's a huge mistake I made. I was so focused on the product and selling the product and making sure the product was good and getting more clients that I trusted a whole bunch of the wrong people along the way. So don't ignore the numbers. And as women, I find that sometimes we do. So don't outsource that. Don't delegate that.
Yeah, we always leave money to somebody else.
Yeah. So don't ignore the numbers. Make sure you have the right people on board, because people has been a big reason that Spez has been a success. There are people who've been with us for 10, 12 years.
Wow.
Throughout the journey. Some who've joined along the way, but they're still amazing human beings. So understanding to get the right people, understand what you want from the beginning, what values that you want. And the last one would be maybe just getting a mentor. For me, that has been the biggest impact for my business, having a business mentor. People who've built a very successful business, and they're Kenyans as well. So having that has really helped me, because most of the time you're accountable to yourself. So I mean, you can do really whatever you want with your business. But having an outsider come in and look at your business from a different perspective, it pushes you more. You get challenged more. So that's really important. You must have a business mentor. Yeah.
Okay, those are really useful tips. So when you are entertaining, it's you and your family, what does your table look like? What food are you serving?
Wow. Okay. When I'm entertaining, I really do go all out. I mean, I would be doing my mom an injustice to serve one dish.
You've got everything, the whole 9 yards, the napkins, the cutlery, only for
visitors.
Crockery and cutlery, only for guests.
Yeah. So I mean, I pay a lot of attention to setting the table, and I do that before I begin the cooking, so I have time to be creative with the setup. And then I would make maybe on average 9 to 10 different items. So there's salads, there's maybe a soup for starters.
We should have done this interview at your house.
I know, you're welcome to come and do it there again.
No, I'm kidding.
So there'll be a full spread and dessert as well at the end.
Is there an option of desserts? Or just one?
No, it's okay. It depends on how much time I have. And most of the time, by the time they get to dessert, they're really full. So it was just because they don't want to miss out on the dessert that they eat it.
Yeah.
So I do a very big spread.
Oh wow! Yeah. And what is your secret, Esmeralda, that you're able to keep going?
I really believe in the vision of the company, which is to be the best catering company in Africa. And that's my aspiration for Spez. I really want to recreate the hospitality industry in terms of catering, because most people associate catering with hotels. In fact, every time I tell someone I do catering, they're like, oh, okay, you have a restaurant. I'm like, no, we do outside catering only. So to just give it a whole new perspective, give it more respect that there is now in the market. I mean, even with, when it comes to legislation and everything, it's always about restaurants. It's never about caterers.
Yeah.
So just to give that a different perspective for people, but really to move, to cross the borders, to move into Rwanda, Tanzania, that's a big dream for me. And that's what pushes me, because we've not crossed the border yet. So that gets me up in the morning, gets me mad when we do things wrong, makes me super excited when we do things right. So that's it. It's the vision of the company.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's amazing. I think people who always are hungry, no pun intended, for their goals to be achieved, other people who actually achieve them. Yeah. I thank you so much for watching. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure you leave a comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And speaking of YouTube, make sure you grab your phone and dial in *544# OK and reply with 0, and you get 200 MB of YouTube just for 20 shillings, thanks to Safaricom. These conversations are brought to you by SBM Bank. SBM Bank is always thinking of you, their client. Through workplace banking, SBM Bank has made unsecured, accessible loans to its clients as well. For your chance to win, make sure you head over to our Instagram page or my public Facebook page and subscribe to our newsletter, and you could be a winner of a brand new phone courtesy of Safaricom. Esmeralda and I would love to hear from you. So wherever you are watching from, make sure you comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your favorite foods are as well. Yeah. Esmeralda, you have a favorite food?
Chapati and lentils.
Yeah, that's what you're making for me when I come to your house. Thank you, Esmeralda. Thank you for sharing your insights, your experiences. I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me.
You'll call me when we celebrate, when you cross the border.
Yes, I will.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. On this show, we have conversations that aim to inspire, and we hope that it causes you to take a deep dive within yourself to find out who you are. Real power is always internal. Real power is self-love. Real power is from your core, and real power comes from authenticity. There's nothing like showing up as your authentic self. Find that person and show up as that person every day. The world will be grateful that you did. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again real soon on Pinky TV.